Today in the show, we're going to be talking about the Young Avengers and how they really do represent how it's impossible to put a plug on passion. Two things before we get started. Number one, this video is going to look at the 2005 run on the Young Avengers almost exclusively, meaning we will not be covering the Children's Crusade, Original Sins, or the Marvel Now run. Number two, as with all of my on-character videos, this is just what I get from these characters, and just lessons that I have learned from these characters. If you don't agree, that is fine. You can have your own opinion. It doesn't mean that you can't learn from my opinion too. So Young Avengers, I feel, represent how it's impossible to bottle true passion. By true passion, I mean your one true calling in life, which is something that I feel not enough people discover for themselves. You see, the Young Avengers actually starts off with Iron Man and Captain America finding out about the Young Avengers and wanting to shut them down before they even get to talk to these kids. Another interesting fact is that the Young Avengers never officially called themselves the Young Avengers. It was people that really just didn't understand what they were doing. And I feel like that's so true to life. How often do you hear a kid say, "Oh, Mum, Dad, I want to be a musician," and the parents just go, "Why don't you be a doctor instead? Why don't you be a lawyer? Why don't you have a safe job?" Instead of allowing that kid to follow their passions. In my mind, I think it would be a much better situation if the parents researched the music industry and found a job for this kid to aspire to that will be stable, but they could still do music. Then what I find interesting is that the first time that we see the Young Avengers, they're actually crashing through a stained glass window, and they're arguing amongst themselves. And what this has to do with everything is that passion is great, passion is amazing, but it needs to be honed and trained. Untrained passion is reckless, and there's a lot of mistakes to be made with it, and it's a very painful road to go down. By supporting a person that's found their one true passion as much as you can help them experience much less pain and much less loss while they go after their one true calling. Now let's look at issue number 2, specifically where Cassie and Kate break into the broken down Avengers mansion. You see, it was Cassie and Kate's plan to join the Young Avengers, and Cassie wanted to get a hold of her dead father's Ant-Man gear so she could become Ant-Girl. And then the Young Avengers turn up and they don't approve of Cassie and Kate at all and try stopping them, even though Cassie's father was an Avenger. So she has more of a right to be a Young Avenger than anyone else. So Cassie begins to stand up for her right to fight. She begins to point out that she has more of a calling here than anyone else. And as she does so, her powers manifest for the first time. She can change her size at will, just like her father. So what does all of this mean? What does all of this represent? Well, first off, it doesn't matter how big of an age gap there is. There will always be someone telling you, maybe that's not for the best. Maybe you should try something else. It doesn't matter whether it's 1 year or 1 generation. But if you know that this is what you're supposed to be doing for sure, you will stand up for your right to do it, regardless of what everyone else is saying. And if you can't prove them wrong right then and there, in the future, you will definitely prove them wrong. If something is right for you, if you wake up in the morning thinking about that thing, go for it, regardless of what anyone else says, and prove them wrong. Now, if you're still watching this video, I'm assuming you don't care about spoilers. So in issue number 6 of the Young Avengers are actually shut down by Captain America. He basically tells them that if they continue their activities, he's going to tell their parents, which could potentially ruin some of their lives. However, a few days later, Kate finally points out most of their parents wouldn't believe Captain America if he told their parents that their kids were running around as heroes. So Kate uses her father's money, buys an abandoned warehouse for the Young Avengers to use as a lair, gets the team all new uniforms, and the Young Avengers is resurrected. And yeah, Captain America isn't going to approve, but when has that ever stopped them before? Once again, this just represents people are gonna shut you down. People are gonna do everything in their power to stop you from going after whatever it is you want to do. Don't give up. If you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you will not give up. You will find a way to keep going. So then, right at the end of the series, Eli, Patriot, gets badly hurt to the point that he almost dies. There's a whole bunch of other loss involved, which I won't get into in case you haven't read the series. But what I love is this little back and forth between Kate and Captain America. Now, Captain America basically says to Kate, now that your team has seen all of this loss, I assume that all of you are going to give up on being Young Avengers. But then Kate says, look, you know as soon as Eli is better, the Young Avengers is going to be reinstated and we're going to be alive and kicking and doing our thing. Stop trying to shrug us off. We would have not experienced any pain if the Avengers had just accepted us from the beginning. If you had given us proper guidance and training instead of trying to shrug us off, none of this would have happened. This is all your fault, Steve Rogers. And you know what? Soon after this, Captain America promises to train the Young Avengers properly, which is amazing. Loss is something that happens in all of our lives, regardless of what we're doing. But it can be especially painful if that loss is directly linked with what we're doing with our lives, whether it's loss of a friend or loss of someone's life. However, with support of friends, family, and people that genuinely care about you, you can keep that loss to a minimum amount. Or even if the loss isn't able to be kept to a minimum amount, you've got the support to be able to deal with that loss a lot better. Overall, I feel the first run on the Young Avengers is really inspiring and can really teach you to go after any passions that you may have. And if you want to read the first run on the Young Avengers, I put a link to mycomicshop.com down below where you can buy the entire first run.
It's super effective!
Okay guys, that is it for today. Remember to thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more on character videos, and also don't forget to support the show by checking out my Patreon so I can make bigger and better videos like the history of the Avengers. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my gaming channel. My name is Faust, this has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.